How's it going?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Trad Queen Story Hour. I hope you guys had a wonderful, introspective Memorial Day weekend with your family, hopefully grilling, making burgers and dogs, and remembering why we have the freedoms we have. I'm so excited to be back here with you guys again. It is finally getting into summertime. I was reminded, unfortunately, over the course of the weekend of Kamala Harris's enjoy the long weekend tweet from a couple years ago, and it is just as gross now as it was in 2021. That is not what Memorial Day weekend is about. I remember learning about whatever it was, the act or something that made all of these holidays into 3-day weekends so that it would be easier on the banks or something. Not sure exactly what the thinking was, but I really don't like it. I would prefer to have like set apart actual days. Like I really like that the 4th of July is always on the 4th day of July. I kind of like that Christmas is whenever it wants to be. Personally, I love that Easter is all over the place, but we will see what happens with Memorial Day. Let's make sure you guys can hear me. Looks fine in the chat. Thank you all for joining me on YouTube and on Rumble. Rumble streaming is fantastic. We are enjoying using it for sure. We are also on Locals, SourPatchLyds.locals.com, and hopefully you guys can follow us over there. I swear we are going to get some exclusive behind the scenes type content. Maybe we can start recording some of that stuff while we're actually moving. The move actually right now is kind of what's tripping us up. We are super busy with that, so please bear with us and thank you for your patience. Hope that you guys, I hear Andy running upstairs. Hopefully everything is working all right. We'll see what happens. But I really want to talk about Andrew Cuomo this evening, which is not something that I ever wanted to talk about again. How's the audio, dear? Andy looks annoyed, so he's here to fix our problems for us. Boop, 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 boop.
Are you on?
Do we have an echo?
Yeah. Which one are you on right now?
I'm on no, not that one. There shouldn't be an echo.
So.
This is what I get for trying to use my laptop like as a laptop instead of as a desktop. I think I'm going to need a desktop going forward because sometimes I like to do other things with my laptop besides just have it on my desk, but that results in problems like this where we have this ridiculous echo. So hopefully we can get it cleared up pretty easily. I think it shouldn't be too big a deal. Yes, here's what we're going to be talking about first. Andrew Cuomo saying that Donald Trump has finally told the truth. New York got hit first and worst, but New Yorkers acted responsibly. Lie. Florida's policy of denial allowed COVID to spread, and that's why they had a very large second wave. Andrew Cuomo is lying out his tuchus, and he's making no bones about it, and I am thoroughly disgusted that Trump said that Andrew Cuomo handled the pandemic better than Ron DeSantis did, because Donald Trump actually left New York, partly at least because of the way they handled COVID. Not least also partly because of the way they were taxing and all this other stuff. But really interested to see what Trump fans have to say about him embracing Cuomo, because Andrew Cuomo put people into nursing homes and unbiased sources found this out on their own. So let's read this article from the Miami paper of note, floridapolitics.com. It's not the paper of note, it's just a website from Florida. Donald Trump continues arguing Ron DeSantis was worse than Andrew Cuomo during pandemic. Wars over COVID-19 continue to take center stage in the race for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. Former President Donald Trump is taking Ron DeSantis to task again over his handling of the coronavirus pandemic, contending Florida saw more COVID casualties than New York, which was governed by Democrat Andrew Cuomo during much of the early wave of the disease. Under Ron DeSanctimonious as governor, Florida was the third worst state in deaths by COVID. So why do they say that DeSantis did a good job? I would like for him to spell his name correctly. I gotta be honest, it is very disrespectful to not use someone's actual name. And I know that sometimes it can be considered kind of endearing, but I personally have never found it endearing. This is something that my mom actually did with one of my high school boyfriends because she did not like him. She would never spell his name correctly, and this is exactly the tactic we see from Donald Trump. Cliff the Alien says, what about those nursing homes in New York City, dude? That's right, and we're going to talk about that too. Anyway, so what do they say? He did a good job. New York had fewer deaths, ! Also, he shut down the state, capital S, and even its beaches, unlike other Republican governors. Trump posted to Truth Social Tuesday. If you guys can tell me in chat what other Republican-led states have beaches that were not shut down during COVID, please let me know. I'm thinking Texas would have been one of the only other Republican-led states that has beaches at all. And I have no idea how they handled it. I don't think Texas handled it particularly well, but they don't do conservatism particularly well down there either. The swipe at DeSantis continues as Trump trend, one established the other day in a video to his social media platform in which he said that Florida governor was very average at best compared to Republican governors who have done a fantastic job. Even Cuomo did better. He was number 4, Trump said. DeSantis has responded to some of this, including it during a post-campaign launch interview with Ben Shapiro last week. First of all, Florida had less excess mortality than California or New York, he said, as transcribed by Fox News. Part of that is because states like California had excess mortality derived from the lockdown policy, which is really, really avoidable mortality. But if he thinks Cuomo handled it better, that's an indication if something like this were to happen again, he would double down and do what he did in March of 2020. I'm inclined to agree, DeSantis added before repeating familiar denunciations of Dr. Anthony Fauci. Yes, which I think resonate with 99% of Republican voters at this point, and many people on the left too. But we all have to sit here today in 2023, look back on March 2020 and say Faucism was wrong, Faucism was destructive. It set us on this path with the CARES Act and the Fed printing money, creating inflation, creating some of the economic problems that we have today. Well, that's a pretty balanced article from floridapolitics.com. Thank you, guys. Let's look at this. New New York governor, that would be Kathy Hochul, adds 12,000 deaths to publicized COVID tally. And this was, I believe, because of the nursing homes. But let's read. Delivering another blow to what's left of former Governor Andrew Cuomo's legacy, New York's new governor acknowledged on her first day in office that the state has had nearly 12,000 more deaths from COVID-19 than Cuomo told the public. I wonder why he hid that. Really handled it really well in New York. The public deserves a clear, honest picture of what's happening, and that's whether it's good or bad. They need to know the truth, and that's how we restore confidence, Governor Kathy Hochul said on NPR, and this is from August 25th, 2021. And this is one of the only things I ever agreed with her on. I thought she was right to come out with these numbers and to actually tell the truth about the numbers in New York City. Andy says, retweet, please. Let's see what Andy tweeted about us. Trad Queen story of SourPatchLyds streaming live. Trump praises his new BFF Andrew Cuomo's record on pandemic governing. That's exactly what he's doing. Thank you for that concise summary, my dear. Let's hop back to where we were. In its first daily update on the outbreak Tuesday evening, Hochul's office reported that nearly 54,400 people have died of the coronavirus in New York based on death certificate data submitted to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's up from about 43,400 that Cuomo reported to the public as of Monday. I'm curious what numbers he's using when he makes this statement about New York. And I'm curious if that's also the number set that Trump is using to smite Florida with. It's so funny to me. You know what? Let's look up when Trump moved to Florida. Trump moves to Florida. Florida. Yep, Trump, lifelong New Yorker, declares himself a resident of Florida. This was October 31st, 2019. So this is before the pandemic. Okay. Trump moves his Florida estate challenged by Trump moved to here is why Donald Trump is moving to Florida. Yes, they're saying that in 2019. As New York dumps Trump, a Trump exodus to Florida is underway. Here we go. Okay, so let's see what CNN has to say about why Trump decided to move to Florida. I am curious. I actually don't know. Donald Trump has changed his official residence from New York, where it has been all his life, to Florida. As New York Times reports, the White House and Trump's Twitter feed have suggested that taxes have something to do with this move. At first glance, this makes sense. Florida has no state-level income or estate tax, so wealthy New Yorkers have been packing their bags and heading there for years. This fact presents a cautionary tale to those like presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who tout a brand new wealth tax on the rich to pay for a great many things. People do indeed move to escape paying taxes. Of course they do. Then there is also the matter of the 2017 Trump tax cuts, which targeted blue states like New York and California by limiting the value of state and local tax deductions under federal law. Maybe Trump finally figured out that this is bad for New Yorkers such as he. But there's a puzzle in these easy explanations for Trump's Florida move, as there typically is with all things Trump. Yeah, the left cannot figure out why Trump did the things he did. I, for one, found that extremely hilarious and fascinating. They just couldn't figure it out. As has been widely reported, and as Trump himself likes to brag, the president does not pay many, if any, taxes at any level. Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York put it succinctly, good riddance. It's not like Mr. Trump paid taxes here anyway. He's all yours, Florida. Still, in a tweet defending his change of address, the president asserted that I have been treated very badly by the political leaders of both the city and state. Few have been treated worse. What's going on? Trump's legal move to Florida may indeed be about taxes, as Trump suggested, but it's not about paying taxes, which Trump doesn't do. Instead, the move seems inspired by attempts to disclose his taxes, which the president also very much does not like to do. Well, as we found out, thanks to Rachel Maddow, there was nothing in those tax forms. Let's see some more of what Andrew Cuomo had to do in New York. Cuomo nursing home order did cause more deaths. It should have been reversed sooner, according to a task force. The controversial directive of New York nursing homes to admit COVID-19 patients increased the death toll among residents, right? Because they were in the demographic that was heavily victimized by COVID-19. And Governor Andrew Cuomo's claims otherwise have been disproven, according to a New York State Bar Association report exclusively obtained by The Post. The 242-page report by the NYSBA's task force on the nursing homes and long-term care also blasts Cuomo for not reversing the Department of Health unreasonable mandate sooner than he did, saying it remained in effect weeks longer than necessary. Although a determination of the number of additional nursing home deaths is beyond the capacity of the task force, there are credible reviews that suggest that the directive for the approximately 6 weeks it was in effect did lead in some number of additional deaths, the report says. Cliff the Alien says Cuomo was trying to get rid of voters. Change my mind. That's entirely possible since older people tend to be more conservative. I would also say that maybe part of the reason that he sent these people to these horribly crippled demographics where they're highly concentrated is also maybe because he thought that he could pump up his own numbers. There's no way by the time he was doing this that he didn't know that he was doing exactly the wrong thing and putting people's lives in danger, and he did it anyway. I mean, this man might actually not have a soul. So it is incredibly troubling to hear Trump saying that he did well. He's really helping Andrew Cuomo's legacy. Thank goodness Trump, his legacy was all the way almost under sea level, and you rescued it. Good for you. Let's see. Greg says, now take DeSantis policy with Trump's charisma. You got a winner. I would prefer DeSantis, but if he is elected, he will not fire anyone. I believe Trump will wipe out 90% of bureaucrats. Trump had the chance to do that, and he didn't. He says he will now, but he's also praising Andrew Cuomo. So it sounds a lot like we'll get a lot more lockdowns if we do end up with something like COVID again. And Trump was last seen lauding Anthony Fauci, if you'll recall. I don't know. I also know that Governor DeSantis went into Florida and he cleaned house at the Florida level. He fired everyone who disagreed with him ideologically, and he hired a bunch of people that he wanted to bring in. So it's true that we don't know what he'd do at the federal level, but he's already said that he wants to abolish the IRS, and I think that's a wonderful place to start. Speaking of the IRS, we're going to touch on what the GOP is doing with the FBI. That's interesting too. Not that they're going to actually be able to get anything done, but they can at least try, and good for them. We'll see. I don't know. I don't believe Trump. Trump has flip-flopped on everything. We're also going to talk about how Trump has changed his position on Disney now that it suits him more. So now that it suits him better to say that Disney's woke, it's confusing. We'll break it down. That's what we're going to look at next. And let's look at this one next. So this is more wokeness getting into Major League Baseball. So if you guys are baseball fans, I'm really sorry this is happening to you. This is no good. But here we saw someone who is actually brave and thought his own thoughts, and he's being crushed by administration and really just brought in for serious struggle session. So let's see what's going on here. Blue Jays Anthony Bass. I have no idea if this is pronounced correctly. I've never heard of this guy before. I apologize if I mispronounce anything going forward. I'm not familiar at all. I'm less familiar with this than I am with finance. So let's just break it down if we can. Forgive my mispronunciations. Endorses Bud Light target boycotts over LGBTQ promotions. Isn't that interesting? And then we'll see how he's being punished. Toronto Blue Jays reliever Anthony Bass is facing backlash over an Instagram post boycotting Target and Bud Light, which have been publicly supporting LGBTQ rights. On Tuesday, he reposted a video to his Instagram story that appeared to be anti-LGBTQ and discussed the biblical reasons Christians should boycott Target and Bud Light. The video was initially posted by the verified Instagram account Dude with Good News, which is run by Ryan Miller, who describes the content as daily devotional. Here's the reason biblically I believe Christians have got to be boycotting Target, Bud Light, and any other corporation that's pushing the things they're pushing, the video shared to Bass' Instagram story said. So he didn't even say this, he just shared a video that did. I think a lot of people make this into a political issue or say, oh, what's the big deal? Miller went on to read a Bible verse and vowed to expose the darkness Target is shoving into children's faces. In the caption, Miller wrote, in part, Target has begun pushing the message of transitioning to young people. Bass did not provide any commentary himself, Bass, no idea how it's pronounced, beyond promoting the video. Really regretting my decision to not throw popcorn at him while he was warming up in the bullpen on Saturday, one Twitter user wrote in response to Bass' post. I gotta be honest, going onto Twitter and choosing random people's commentary is probably the lowest possible form of journalism. That is just weak. Make up your own commentary or just say someone actually qualified said this. For example, here's our next example. He's a clown, another added. The Blue Jays have a scheduled event to celebrate Pride Month on June 9th when they host the Twins. The first 15,000 fans to enter the stadium will receive a Blue Jays rainbow flag jersey. I don't blame him for pushing back on this. This is nonsense. In response to Bass' post, a team spokesperson told Toronto's City News that the organization is proud to celebrate Pride Month and that individual player sentiments are not representatives of the club's beliefs. Of course not. They never are. My views have never represented my employer and vice versa, and that's fine. The Blue Jays bring millions of fans together across Canada. Oh yeah, he's Canadian too. That's part of the issue. And are committed to providing an inclusive, welcoming experience for all. The Blue Jays are proud to celebrate LGBTQ 2S+, right, this is Canada, so it's just how they operate up there. They just throw in the extra letters, just to be a little extra fancy, a little special. Pride Month, including a special 4th annual Pride Weekend at the ballpark June 9th and 10th, and demonstration of allyship all month long around the ballpark. Yes, most persecuted minority on earth. On May 24th, Target Corporate announced that it was pulling some of its Pride products due to, quote, threats impacting our team members' sense of safety and well-being while at work. Right, the right is their lucky scapegoat. Bud Light is engulfed in a separate controversy after its parent company Anheuser-Busch partnered with a transgender influencer and TikTok star in a promotion for the company's March Madness contest. Since then, sales have fallen dramatically, with some stores marking down the company's products to get them off their shelves. Here is Anthony Bass with his family. Yes, he looks like a real bigot. Amazing nights at the complex for a little family get-together before spring training games begin. What a jerk. Bass made headlines last month after he spoke out following an alleged incident with his pregnant wife on a United Airlines flight. At the time, Bass took to Twitter, claiming a United Airlines flight attendant made his 22-week pregnant wife, Sydney Ray Bass, get on her hands and knees to pick up the popcorn mess left by their youngest daughter, 2-year-old Blair. Bass added that the United Airlines was handling the situation internally and that he and his wife would not be commenting further. 35-year-old pitcher deleted his Twitter account earlier this month following trolling over the incident. I have to say, I'm almost 22 weeks in, and I would be fine to get down on my hands and knees to pick up popcorn. It is kind of rude and pushy to ask her to do that, though, and that's kind of unfair. When you're 22 weeks, it's not even for sure that you'll be showing that you're pregnant. So, honestly, it's nonsense. But I just thought it was super interesting, and all the pushback he's been getting for this is wild. In fact, let's see if we can find a little bit of... Let's go to home. See if we can look up most recent tweets about him, because I saw a few, but now I don't have them pulled up. Anthony Bass. 2 S's. Ha! 2S, 2 Spirit. Apologizes after sharing hurtful video endorsing Target and Bud Light boycotts. Yeah, Blue Jays pitcher apologizes. Toronto Blue Jay funded re-education for Anthony Bass. Sad. Major League Baseball is demanding apologies from Christians who did nothing wrong while supporting demons who target children for mutilation. That's correct. And I believe, let's see if we can get the text here. We're not going to listen to this because I feel like we constantly get struck down for copyrights. Total nonsense. Here's Megan Basham posting a picture of an actual struggle session from Mao's China. Crazy. Crazy. And Graham Allen says this is what a coward looks like. Mean what you say and stand behind it even when people have a problem with it. Absolutely. Tom says how shameful you forced him to make this idiotic statement and apologize for his beliefs. I'm going to give that the coveted Sour Patch likes like it's true. Terry Schilling says humiliating. What type of employer would have forced their employee to do something like this? It is truly enraging. All around the sport of baseball. Woke ruins everything. Joel Berry for the Babylon Bee says this is the most pathetic thing. 100%. 100%. Not all men have testicles. Yes, we are seeing this for sure. Here's an explainer. In the Chinese Cultural Revolution, angry children were treated as adults, adults were treated as children, and parents told to always listen to children. These were called struggle sessions. So here we have mockery of an adult by children. Very interesting. Looks like they similarly turned the tables between adults and children, just like we're doing now. And it does look like a hostage video. This makes me very sad. I'm sorry that he wasn't able to express his own point of view on his own Instagram post. That's crazy to me, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. We know this is how it works now, and I'm so glad that we are pushing back on Target, and I'm so glad we're pushing back on Bud Light. And in fact, this is funny. I really like this article. Headline, Boycott Target beats Taylor Swift on iTunes. So I'm assuming, based just on this headline alone, which I just pulled up at the last second, there must be a song about boycotting Target, and it looks like that song has creamed Taylor Swift on iTunes, which is great. An anti-Target song topping the iTunes sales chart on Tuesday, prompting cheers from conservatives despite negligible performance on streaming apps like Spotify. That's right. It is symbolic. It doesn't matter if it charts big on Spotify. It doesn't matter if it becomes a number one best-selling album or whatever. None of that matters. All that matters is that we're making an impact and conservatives are feeling seen and heard. I think that's a powerful thing. Target is the latest company being targeted online by conservatives with boycott threats, not threats, darling, actual boycotts in the real world. Over support for the LGBTQ plus community. That is a gross misrepresentation of what is happening with Target. What's happening with Target is that they chose an artist who makes art showing guillotines as, quote, a headrest for homophobes, and says things like smash the system, CIS, system, haha, very punny, and other things to that effect, and saying things like Satan respects pronouns and stuff like that. It's clearly a blend of Satanism and pro-transgender ideology. I hear Dot out there. She's causing trouble. Nothing new there for sure. But Newsweek, as always, misrepresents this. Here's Chuck Calesto, who's a little bit over the top with his tweets. He says, breaking report, boycott Target takes the #1 spot on iTunes for all music, knocking Taylor Swift to #2. All caps, America is waking up. I think that's fair analysis, even though I probably wouldn't put it in all caps. And I do think it's great. I think that conservatives should feel proud of it. I think that we should feel glad that people are finally hearing us out when they've been intentionally ignoring us. And in the case of some of these Major League Baseball teams, intentionally choosing to overlook the sensibilities of, for example, Catholics in the largest archdiocese in the country. They're going to suffer for that, I think. In fact, I'm really curious now how the LA Dodgers are doing in the old funding department. But we can't quit now. Look at this. This is really interesting. We all love Chick-fil-A, right? Most of us do. I don't find Chick-fil-A to be particularly compelling food, but most of us love Chick-fil-A because it is the Lord's chicken. We appreciate that they have a Christian background to the company. Chick-fil-A draws boycott calls over DEI initiatives. This is bad, very bad. I don't want to have to boycott. Are we going to have to boycott? Manarino asks. I'm not sure who Manarino is. Hopefully this article will tell us. Fast food chain Chick-fil-A is facing a prospective boycott over its diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, with conservative activists claiming the company has gone woke. Attracting attention is a statement from the company's vice president of DEI, Eric McReynolds, that appears on the company's website. Chick-fil-A restaurants have long been recognized as a place where people know they will be treated well. Modeling care for others starts in the restaurant, and we are committed to ensuring mutual respect, understanding, and dignity everywhere we do business. That's fine. These tenets are good business practices and crucial to fulfilling our corporate purpose. Political strategist Joey Manarino drew attention to the statement on Tuesday, saying, we have a problem. Chick-fil-A hired a VP of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This is very bad. I don't want to have to boycott. McReynolds has held the position since November 2021, according to his LinkedIn profile. Manarino further posted a poll asking his followers whether they ought to boycott Chick-fil-A. At press time, more than 80,000 individuals had voted, and a slim majority of 52.6% oppose a boycott. That's interesting. I would also oppose a boycott until this guy does something that's actually bad. The statement itself is not, I think, bad enough to work with. I think that there is nothing there that says that Christians are eschewed. I don't think there's enough to work with. I just don't think there's enough reason to boycott Chick-fil-A. Adrian Curry says Chick-fil-A offers good, healthy options. That's true, too. I loved their salads. I just find their chicken sandwiches are kind of dull. But let's see here. Let's read this again. Chick-fil-A restaurants have long been recognized as a place where people know they will be treated well. Yes, that's true. People talk about that left, right, and center. There are literally stories of Chick-fil-A servers diving through drive-through windows to save people from choking, okay? I think last I saw, there were Chick-fil-A servers who saved a woman from a carjacking or something. Really, really above and beyond. They hire great people. The people work as if they are actually happy to be there, which is incredibly unusual. But let's read on. Modeling care for others starts in the restaurant. Yes, we are committed to ensuring mutual respect, understanding, and dignity everywhere we do business. What's wrong with this? I'm genuinely curious. I don't think we need to turn our sights on Chick-fil-A just yet, especially since this guy has been in his position for 2 years and hasn't done anything actually diverse, equitable, or inclusive. We will see. That's a Marxist commie state-approved position, says Adrian. I'm not sure I agree. We'll just have to see what more they do now. Chick-fil-A is a Christian company and notably remains closed on Sundays. The franchise has long attracted scrutiny for its funding of charitable organizations that many left-wing activists consider opposed to LGBTQ initiatives. The company ceased funding such organizations as of 2019, Nexstar noted. So they did welch on that. So they are a little bit squishy. I don't love that. They should have done the opposite of what Anthony Bass did and stood by what they said because it's what they believe to be true. Unfortunately, they did not do that, so maybe they are squishing. We'll see what happens. But that was even before their DEI person was in office. That was in 2019. This guy didn't even get his position until 2021. We'll see. We will see. I just don't think there's enough to go on there. All right, you guys, let's look now at Disney, because Trump and DeSantis have been arguing about Disney, and Trump has now taken 2 different positions on Disney. The first was that Disney isn't that bad, and DeSantis shouldn't be pushing back on them. And now he's saying that Walt Disney is way too woke, and this happened under DeSantis, darn it, and he should have stopped it. Really curious which side we're going to come down on, which is true, okay? My position is always that we should be looking for the truth and trying to figure out what's actually true and going from there, because choosing to disregard what's actually true is what has given us this mindset that maybe we should be teaching kids that actually there are boys when they're girls. Actually, they're girls when they're boys. That is a disregard for truth. Choosing to prioritize political expediency above all else has put us in a position where our country is now suffering economically, culturally, socially, all of the different ways because we've chosen not to prioritize truth. With Trump changing his position on Disney makes me feel like he doesn't care about the truth. And I don't like that, and I don't think that's a winning position. I hope not. I really hope not. I hope that conservatives now feel like that truth is important enough. We should prioritize it over all politicians. That means if you think DeSantis isn't telling the truth, you should let him know. You should ask him serious questions. You should ask him tough questions. But the same goes for Trump. It should be for any politician, for any person you're enlisting for their service for a set number of years. You should demand the truth from them. What else can you ask of them? Let's read this article. It's just exhausting. DeSantis accuses Trump of taking sides with Disney on campaign trail. Trump, however, posted on Sunday that the theme park empire has become woke and disgusting shadow of its former self, but said this all happened during the governorship of Rob DeSanctimonious, again with he being unwilling to use his actual name. Let us continue. Or maybe he's forgotten. He could have a touch of dementia. He's only 4 years younger than Joe Biden. Florida's 2 most powerful Republican presidential hopefuls sparred on Memorial Day over Walt Disney World. Speaking on Fox and Friends show Monday morning, Ron DeSantis took former President Donald Trump to task for taking the side of Disney in our fight down here in Florida. Trump posted Sunday that the theme park empire has become woke and disgusting shadow of its former self, but said this all happened during the governorship of Ron DeSantis. I'm going to use his right name. The sparring over Disney in Florida suggests the governor's assault on the company's self-governing status in retribution for its former CEO speaking out on legislation will be a 2024 campaign issue among Trump, who leads in the polls, and DeSantis, who is seen as his most formidable rival. DeSantis, Disney, and the 2024 campaign. Disney cancels move to Lake Nona. Did Trump get it right on the DeSantis feud? What we know, he did not. Disney had been mulling canceling this move to Florida for over a year, if I recall correctly, since November of 2022. Trump and DeSantis, Trump-DeSantis 2024 ticket, likely a no-go. Problem isn't their feud, it's the U.S. Constitution. That's right. Apparently you can't have both a president and a vice president from the same state. RIP. Would be an interesting ticket for sure. More on the campaign trail. Trump gets a captive audience in Iowa, but poll shows Trump way ahead of DeSantis in Florida. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Donald Trump defends Disney. When news broke the other day over Walt Disney Company's plans to cancel their Lake Nona campus, which would have relocated 2,000 cast members from California to Central Florida, oh my gosh, in retrospect, I'm really glad that didn't happen, because you know what comes alongside of California people, right? California votes. And take it from me, as someone who lived in Colorado during the bluing of Colorado, that was exactly what happened. People were like, I am disgusted by California. I am leaving. I'm going to go to California and I'm going to vote the exact same way that I voted in California. Just disgusting. There has been much speculation as to why. Yes. Some have cited the ongoing feud between Disney and Governor Ron DeSantis, while others have pointed to Disney looking for ways to cut costs. Amid the loss of $4 million Disney Plus subscribers, is it $4 million or 4 million Disney Plus subscribers, and a drop in their stock price? That's right. Their stock price, from my understanding, dropped to about half of what it was. The Walt Disney Company proposed a $1 billion development, which would have included 6 office buildings, 2 flex buildings, 3 parking garages, a central plant, and a surface parking lot for visitors. The Republican candidates. Former President Donald Trump took no time jumping into the ongoing war between Disney and Governor DeSantis. Although Trump is no fan of woke culture, he's also looking to take advantage of any opportunity to attack Florida's Republican governor, as it's believed DeSantis will make a 2024 presidential run. This article is from before he announced. Trump released a statement on Thursday referring to the Florida governor as de sanctimonious and accusing him of getting caught in the mousetrap, costing the state over 2,000 jobs. DeSantis' failed war on Disney has done little for his limping shadow campaign and now is doing even less for Florida's economy. So he's blasting DeSantis for taking Disney to task, meaning that he thinks that that is what hurt Florida's economy by keeping these 2,000 Californians out of Florida. What a shame, can I just say. Governor Ron DeSantis has been the target for months of attacks by former President Donald Trump, who announced his third bid for White House last November, which was exactly when Disney was considering pulling this plan in the first place because they just don't have the funds. In fact, let's take a quick look at Disney. Disney stock prices year. Let's see what we can find. Yeah, they're way down. They are way down. Let's look over the year. So we started at 88.97 US dollars. We went all the way up to 109. Oh, that's impressive. We're lower than we were at the start of the year. Let's look over the course of the last 5 years. Goodness gracious. 99. We got all the way up to 189. Oh, yeah. They started at 189. Oh, they're down at 87. They're not doing well. They're not doing well. And they'd been planning to cut this other campus for a really long time. But now they have the excuse. This is just like Target saying, oh, we have to pull these products. We have to put them in the back of the store because those darn right-wingers, they're causing so much trouble. We have to get rid of them. Oh, right. It'll be really, really good for our stock prices. Don't worry about that. That's not really important. The main thing is that we can blame right-wingers. Disney is doing the exact same thing. And that's exactly what they say they're doing. But we know that's not the case. Disney has been considering getting rid of this campus for a really long time. But I digress. I just thought it was interesting. Just thought it was fascinating. California Kevman says, I left California and voted red in Colorado. Thank you very much for doing that. Unfortunately, you were in a vanishingly rare minority, and now Denver looks like San Francisco. It is soul-crushing, to say the least. The last time I was there, disturbing. Really disturbing. Whisper says, what's happening to Arizona now? Yes, all of the states, even remotely close to California, are having the same problem. And I just want to diverge for a minute and talk about what happens when Californians move to your state. Okay? What's happening in Arizona is what happened in Colorado, is what's happening in Texas. Where Californians go, blue policies follow. Because blue policies ruin their states, and for whatever reason, they can never put two and two together and realize that their votes in November made a difference over the course of the rest of the year and the following 2, 3, 4 years. State Farm will no longer insure homes in California because it is impossible to make sure that nothing bad is going to happen there. In fact, let's look at that. I just thought that was interesting. Saw it go by. Hadn't looked at what their reasoning is for doing that. State Farm, California. State Farm will no longer insure new homes in California. Stops new home insurance sales in California as wildfire risks grow. This state is so terribly managed, and in the name of being green and eco-friendly, they have chosen not to take care of the beautiful land they are gifted, and instead just let wildfires run rampant. And their water management is similarly insane. From my understanding, over the course of the last few months, they had massive snowfall, right? Over the course of the winter. They had people who were stranded in their homes, and the state of California didn't even touch them for weeks because of the amount of snow. But once that snow melted, from my understanding, it was all sent into the ocean. I have no idea why. Absolutely no idea. In fact, let's look at that. I just thought it was interesting that State Farm thinks that California is too big a risk to even insure. California, snow melt, ocean. I know they were having some flooding. What the coming snowmelt will mean for California already. So from NPR, whom we don't like very much. California's snowpack in the Sierra Nevada is well above average. All that snow is starting to melt. Communities are planning for flooding in a state already hit hard by winter rains and floods. All right, let's see. Oh, they're just asking questions. Stupid interview format. I hate it. All right, so we have May forecast could limit dangerous snowmelt. Record snowfall anticipated to bring high, fast rivers. Yes, it did ease drought and restore water levels, but I believe, let's see what they say now. Those could threaten a disaster. Yeah, there you go. So they are so poorly managed that even if they do finally get enough rain to alleviate the drought, they still have issues because they're not prepared for any amount of rain. And I think it was Rachel Maddow or Ellen DeGeneres who went out and was looking at the flooding and who was like, this is the result of global warming. This is what happens when you don't respect Mother Nature or whatever. It's complete nonsense. You know this. Britannica says conservatives need to move to swing states. That's a good point. There might be something to that. But unfortunately, Colorado for a while was a swing state too. But the problem there still is that you have cities, right? We had Denver, we had Boulder, we had some other cities. Colorado Springs was always super conservative because of the military presence there. Between Denver and Boulder was one of the last places in the country where you could get like a 9-month abortion still. And I think it still is one of those places since Colorado's gone full on blue. But it's just been the issue of the cities, right? So even if you move to a swing state, you will still be in a minority if you have the power that the cities have, which is a problem that we typically have. Whisper says housing prices are insane now. Yes, it's another thing that happens when Californians move to your state. California has such insanely high housing prices. People move to other states feeling like that's normal, right? And they raise the prices by increasing the demand for housing and being willing to pay insane amounts for rent. I looked at rent in Colorado Springs recently. The apartment that I used to pay $425 a month for is now going for at least 3 to 5 times that much. And it's still just a single bedroom, kind of crappy apartment in kind of a crappy, dangerous part of town. It costs almost $2,000 a month. Absolutely wild to me. Yeah. Greg says I'm not going back to Minnesota because it turned blue. It makes me so sad. Yes, I am crushed by what's happened in Colorado for sure. Greg also says Dave Smith just needs to announce he's running for president so I can vote for him. There you go. That'll fix it. DEI is Marxism by stealth. Don't let the cancer grow. Yes. Well, the issue with Chick-fil-A, remember, in 2019, we saw them stop supporting these charities based on what were functionally struggle sessions from the left, right? Said, all right, fine, we won't support these right-leaning charities because we don't want to get yelled at. Wishy-washy, weak, but it's the best we can do, unfortunately. But anyway, enough of my divergence into California nonsense. This was kind of interesting, and this is the only article I have on this, so we'll touch on it. Not really optimistic, as usual, that the GOP is actually going to do anything with it, but I was happy to see that they were at least not letting it sit idly by. GOP oversight chair to launch contempt proceedings against FBI director. What will happen after that remains to be seen. This is from today, about an hour ago. House Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer said Tuesday he plans to bring contempt of Congress proceedings against FBI Director Christopher Wray after the FBI refused to comply with a subpoena from the subcommittee. Interesting. Comer issued a subpoena earlier this month compelling Wray to produce any FD 1023 forms, any FD 1023 forms, records of interactions with confidential sources from June 2020 that contain the word Biden. Very interesting that the FBI was unwilling to comply with this request, isn't it? Today, the FBI informed the committee that it will not provide the unclassified statements subpoenaed by the committee. The FBI's decision to stiff-arm Congress and hide this information from the American people is obstructionist and unacceptable, Comer said in a statement released on Twitter. Though Comer and Wray plan to speak about the subpoena Wednesday, Comer said he still plans to bring the issue for a vote in the committee. While I have a call scheduled for FBI Director Wray tomorrow to discuss his response further, the committee has been clear in its intention to protect congressional oversight authorities and will now be taking steps to hold the FBI director in contempt of Congress for refusing to comply with a lawful subpoena. In a Tuesday statement, the FBI called the plan an unnecessary escalation. Well, maybe you should have handed these forms over before. The FBI remains committed to cooperating with the committee in good faith. In a letter to Chairman Comer earlier today, the FBI committed to providing access to information responsive to the committee's subpoena in a format and setting that maintains confidentiality and protects important security interests and the integrity of the FBI investigation, the agency said. It's a lot of words saying nothing. Any discussion of escalation under these circumstances is unnecessary. Well, maybe you shouldn't have made it so that escalation was the only way to get what they were looking for. And I do find it rather suspicious that they were so unwilling to relinquish these forms, the 1023 forms that James Comer and his ilk were requesting. The committee would have to approve such a measure, which would then go to the full House for a vote. But the move would likely result in little more than a formal admonishment. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. It's up to the Department of Justice whether to take the referral from Congress regarding prosecution, meaning Attorney General Merrick Garland is responsible for determining whether to take aim at the top law enforcement official. And of course, we know that that's never going to happen. Merrick Garland is a Biden appointee, and it's just dead in the water as soon as it touches him. Though Comer cast Wray's response as a refusal, a Tuesday letter from the FBI to the chairman obtained by the Hill, the Bureau said it has identified additional information that we're prepared to offer the committee as an extraordinary accommodation. It's unclear what that information might be. Pretty sure it would be good to just have the forms. Thank you very much. Comer has claimed the form contains information related to an alleged criminal scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a foreign national relating to the exchange of money for policy decisions. But the letter from the Bureau, signed by Acting Assistant Director Christopher Dunham, stressed that the form relays an unverified tip. Recording the information does not validate the information, establish its credibility, or weigh it against any other information known or developed by the FBI. He wrote, adding that releasing the information could influence the public's perception of the impartiality of the law enforcement process. Really? Interesting. Wouldn't that be interesting if the public's perception of the impartiality of the law enforcement process were affected by your releasing this information? That would be really effing interesting. Letter also breaks down the message that the Bureau relayed in a briefing to the committee, casting the need to protect confidential sources as a national security matter. Of course. We explain the significant limits on whether, when, and how confidential human source information can be provided outside the FBI, how those limits are critical to the physical safety of our sources and others identified in source reporting, as well as to the integrity of our confidential human sources program, and longstanding Department of Justice confidential interests. Holy cow, could you write a longer run-on sentence? Anyway, nothing's going to happen. We know it. I just thought it was really interesting, and I'm glad that they're going to try to hold Christopher Wray accountable to some degree or another. Unfortunately, because we have a Democrat in office, and this is why we need to win in 2024, because we have a Democrat in office, this will never see the light of day. This will never matter. Nothing will ever happen because Merrick Garland is at the top of this chain. Enough said. We need to win in 2024, period. I want to talk about this story because I hadn't mentioned it in the past. I saw it go by. I didn't know anything about it, so I didn't touch on it. This is a CUNY law dean who applauded a hate-filled commencement speaker developed a race-related course in last post. So this was a student, I believe, who went up there and basically just said that law itself is white supremacy, which is a really interesting stance for a law student to take. Let's read more. The dean of CUNY's law school, who was among those to applaud the recent hate-filled commencement speech delivered by a graduate, previously spearheaded the creation of a race-related coursework requirement at her last job. That's not surprising. Let's read the actual speech. Commencement speaker slams CUNY law for supporting fascist NYPD and oppressive systems. Fascinating. A graduate speaking at the City University of New York's law school commencement called for a revolution to take on the legal system's white supremacy and rip the fascist NYPD, military, and Israel. This person is an actual anti-Semite. When I first saw her, I thought that she was Ilhan Omar. That's shameful of me, I know. Future lawyer. So our future's in good hands. Fatima Musa Muhammad, a Queens native who was selected by the graduating 2023 class to speak during the May 12th ceremony, praised CUNY for supporting student activism, but said the school still failed students by supporting such institutions as the city's police department and country's armed forces. Like many of you, I chose CUNY School of Law for its articulate mission, law in the service of human needs, one of very few legal institutions created to recognize that the law is a manifestation of white supremacy. This is a lawyer who believes that the law itself is a manifestation of white supremacy. That continues to oppress and suppress people in this nation and around the world. CUNY initially removed her fiery speech from YouTube, but it was later uploaded again after critics chided the public law school for silencing Muhammad, who also ripped Israel over its treatment of Palestinians. So this person is the next Ilhan Omar. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry for confusing her with her. They both wear the same headdress. We joined this institution to be equipped with the necessary legal skills to protect our community, she continued, noting that she and her peers enrolled in the program to tackle systems of oppression. I'm sure they did. Higher education is beyond salvation. 100%. This is disturbing stuff. Systems of oppression created to feed an empire with a ravenous appetite for destruction and violence. Institutions created to intimidate, bully, and censor and stifle the voices of those who resist, she said. Wasn't she stunning and brave? She then lauded the school for supporting students who spoke out about Israel's treatment of Palestinians. She said the graduating class of law students also fought for incarcerated clients with nearly zero institutional support, battled for others to get asylum, and went to court to reunite families torn apart by the city's Administration for Children's Services. According to Muhammad, the class of 2023 was able to accomplish all of this in spite of racism, select activism, and self-serving interests of CUNY, whom she deemed an institution that continues to fail us. So the school she's graduating from, she's slamming as being an institution that continues to fail her while she got her degree in law, which she says is a manifestation of white supremacy. So I'm not really sure what exactly we're expected to take from this, except that the actual institution of law itself is under threat from wokeness, and that is probably the scariest feature of this. I saw this coming because you could see some of this stuff happening in Australia and New Zealand. Very disturbing stuff too, but I knew that that would not affect us, but I sensed based on knowing that about it that it was going to be coming here. And he says headdress, I'm certain that might be racist. It definitely is, and you have my apologies. I was just lazily glancing over it. I thought that Ilhan Omar gave like a commencement ceremony speech. I was wrong, forgive me, but this person is every bit as indoctrinated as Ilhan Omar is. And they are more than willing to use their position as a highly educated person, educated in the higher forms of the education system. I cannot emphasize this enough, This is what the higher education system has resulted in. This woman is now going to get out there and use the law to target people who she does not like, all in the name of activism, in the name of social engagement, in the name of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I hope that we're ready for that, because this is what our higher education institutions are bringing us moving forward. It's something to be aware of, and I'm not even sure how to fight back on it, except to say to move to places where there are people around you who agree with you politically, because those people will help keep this kind of ideology hopefully out of the courtrooms. But one of the things I ran into when I was voting in Colorado was that it was very difficult to get a feel for the politics of judges. I would sit down every year. I would sit down with, or whenever voting came around, I'd sit down with a booklet, right? They'll give you a booklet of information about who exactly you're voting for and what their stances have been, all that other stuff. But with judges, it was very hard to tell, and I feel like it would be a lot easier to tell now. But it was very difficult to tell exactly which way they leaned based on how they judged. So I'd go through and I'd read about judgments they'd made. I tried to read about the cases themselves. And that's why it took me so long to vote every time I did. It took me hours. Like, it was an afternoon's project or an evening's project. And going through and trying to make sure that these judges had actually ruled fairly was an incredibly difficult task. Not knowing which way they leaned politically was really, really hard. I guess the only bright side is that going forward, we will know for sure which way they lean politically, because they'll be doing things like saying FTP, and they'll be doing things like bring the system down, we need a revolution, screw Israel, all this other stuff. It's really exciting. Really, really good stuff. People don't get degrees to get money or fulfilling jobs anymore. They get degrees to get justice, says Britannica. That's correct. And he says, until you realize Muslims were the scapegoats used to convince conservatives to beg for all kinds of anti-terrorism bills that destroyed their own rights. That's true, but unfortunately that's very little to do with this. This is the problem in higher education. So that's totally separate. The Patriot Act, huge failing of the American legislative system. And of course they did use the bogeyman of terrorism coming from Islam to push that through and to convince conservatives it was the right thing to do. Oyvind says, I'd like to buy a car. I shouldn't be red or blue or white or gray or yellow or pink or magenta or green, etc. Smiley face. Yes, yes, yes. And finally, I wanted to close with this cultural topic. Very interesting. It's probably nothing too significant, but I found it fascinating because I was listening to Josh Hawley talk to Jordan Peterson today. That was my podcast of the day, and it was really, really interesting. I appreciate what Josh Hawley's done. He's written a book about masculinity. He's got two sons who are like 8 and 10, and he's really like trying to look out for them and make sure that masculinity doesn't die on his watch, which I think is truly honorable. Let's read this tweet from Brad Wilcox. I have to ask, let's see where he's from. Professor and Director, National Marriage Project at UVA. Future of Freedom Fellow at Family Studies, Fellow AEI. I appreciate American Enterprise, Words at Deseret, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, The Atlantic. Very cool. This comes on the heels of evidence from Jean Twenge's new book, Generations, which shows high school boys turning right even as female peers turn left. Stunning ideological divide among high school seniors today. 65% of high school senior boys are conservative. 31% of high school senior girls are conservative. That's crazy. Look at this divide. Holy cow. I feel like this spells the fate of marriage in this country. It's not going to go well. Striking new evidence, young men in America are moving right. Fewer than half of Gen Z men think feminism has made America a better place. Who in their right mind could blame them for thinking that when they were told all through their education that they were evil, that their sex, things that they could not change about themselves, made them intrinsically bad? Now they're turning on it and they're saying, no, it has not made my life better. It has not made the world better for anyone. I appreciate that. The fact that fewer than half of Gen Z men think that feminism has made America a better place is a data point we should all take pretty seriously. Yes, that's correct. We should indeed. I'm delighted that they think that way. Certainly see my kids' school dramatic gender divides emerging in cultural and political attitudes for both middle school and high school students. Doesn't bode well for the future of love, romance, and marriage, given ways in which relationships flourish when couples are roughly on the same page values-wise. Here's more on the gender divide. In both Switzerland and the US, young women are becoming much more liberal and left-wing. There seems to be a growing gender gap. The first graph is via Louise Duplessis, which I translated with Microsoft Translate. Second graph is by Andrew Camp. Let's look at this one. Yep. Girls, boys, women, men. Well, I mean, it's pretty clear that Frauen is females and Männer is males. That checks out. It's Swedish, I think. Swedish or German? Either way. Yeah, Frauen is German. Me Too begins October 2017. Hey, look at that. I can read German. Fascinating. That's pretty straightforward. It's not too bad. Yeah, so this is missing. Male, female, percent identifying as liberal / very liberal / radical. Female is just skyrocketing. So maybe this is how society ends. We just stop getting married and we stop having kids because we can't find partners. And maybe this is exactly what the tech people want, because they want to be able to bring us our AI spouses and, partners who will do nothing but exactly what we say. But those robots cannot have children. They cannot make us into the better people that marriage can make us into. But that's kind of discouraging, unfortunate. I will keep an eye on that. I think it's super interesting. Irvin says, word, and those days politics has invaded marriage too. People can't hang together with people of different opinions. That's what makes life interesting. Yes, it's true. But at the same time, being in a marriage with someone who disagrees with you politically or who is derisive of your political stances, and I am saying this from very personal experience, somebody who does not think that your political views are smart or wise or have merit is not a good place to be. It's not good for you. It's not good for your mental status, and it's not going to be good for your kids either. So I don't know. We'll just have to keep an eye on it. Hopefully Josh Hawley's book. Why am I trying to call him Scott Hawley? I'm thinking Scott Horton. I have no idea. I'm losing my mind. I need to drink some water. Anyway, hopefully Josh Hawley's book will have a bigger impact than this does. Let's look at what Josh Hawley's book is called. I think it's called something about masculinity. I'm hearing an echo of myself from the hallway. It's very distracting. Manhood, the Masculine Virtues America Needs. That is from Josh Hawley, and it looks like that is out already. Cool. Very cool. It is a #1 bestseller in political conservatism and liberalism. Awesome. Well, I want to check that out because his ideas as he was talking to Jordan Peterson were really interesting. You guys should check it out as well for sure. Adrian says, my husband is agnostic and I am Christian. I just don't chase him around with the Bible. That's a little bit different too. Isn't it interesting that politics would be more divisive than even religion? I consider myself somewhat agnostic as well because I'm like, well, I'm not smart enough to say whether God exists or not. I feel like that would be really rather arrogant of me to feel that confident, but I don't know. Either way, I feel like religion has done such important things in our society. If you guys have Daily Wire Plus subscriptions, you should definitely check out Dennis Prager talking about the role of secularism and how secularism has really led us astray, because I think that is going to be really, really impactful moving forward. I feel like a lot of our problems are because we've chosen to go secular, because we've moved away from religion in all its forms, and that's really not going to serve us well. It's going to leave us with stuff like this commencement speaker who is slamming law itself as being problematic and white supremacist. So I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to go drink some water. I hope that you guys are staying safe, staying well, and staying out of Target. Those are my main goals for you going into this coming week. We have our second ultrasound on Friday. I'm very excited. Hopefully we have cool new pictures. We are not going to find out the gender of the baby either way, so that doesn't really matter, but hopefully we'll be able to see more clearly we'll be able to see like facial features. We'll be able to see fingers and toes and all that good stuff. Really exciting. Really looking forward to it for sure. And I will let you guys know if we find anything interesting out. California Kevman says, go watch some William Lane Craig podcasts. I'll have to look him up. That sounds very interesting. Not sure what he talks about, but I am always interested to find some cool new podcasts. All right, you guys, I'll let you go. Until next time. Bye, guys. how's it going?